Hey, this is Stacia, and I wanted to show you an endgame puzzle, one that I got completely wrong. But after studying it, I'm fascinated by this puzzle. And it's white to move and draw. And if you'd like, please pause your video and work out the solution. Fair warning to you, this is rated 4 out of 5 star difficulty in Artur Yusupov's book, Build Up Your Chest, The Fundamentals. So it is quite deep and complex. Okay, and here we go. And I'm going to go through every single variation. So to start off, there's only one move that draws, and that's the move Rook G3. Already a fascinating move. Note that if the queen takes the rook, it's stalemate. So this rook is untouchable. And if we move the rook anywhere else, it's just a lost queen versus rook endgame. So Rook G3 is the only move. And unfortunate for black, if they cannot take the rook, then the queen is now pinned to the king. So, okay, what does black do here? Well, they have a couple options. We already know queen takes doesn't work, but there's king to f4, king to h4, and there's also d4. So this is something we need to look at. Let's look at if the king moves. If the king moves, the question is, can we capture the queen? And turns out that we can. Rook takes queen, king takes, and now king g2. And white has the opposition. So in this line, if black does nothing, then we have this familiar pattern where black is one square in front of the pawn, but in this position, it's a draw if white has the opposition. And fortunately for us, white made the last move, so we do. So this is a draw. So that means after rook g3, king f4 and king h4 don't work because we'll capture the queen. So black must play d4. And this move is unclear still. So, okay. The thing is, after d4, we probably should look at this again. Can we take the queen? And the answer is no. After king g2 this time, white is unable to, yeah, let's see. What did I figure out here? Oh, the move d3 wins. Yeah. d3 covers the e2 square. And unfortunately, not only did we lose the opposition, but we don't have access to this square anymore. So we have to go here. And now black gains the opposition. And this is losing now. Black is going to escort the pawn and queen. So after d4, capturing the queen with check actually loses on the spot. So we cannot do that. So we need to play the move king g2. And if you saw this move ahead of time in the starting position, then please give yourself a pat on the back. You've already earned yourself 3 out of 4 stars, according to the book. Rook g2 gained 2 stars, and king g2 gains 1. That means there's 1 remaining. So again, if you want to pause your video and work out the rest to get that last star, you may want to do so now. Okay. Yeah, and clearly from my arrows you can see in this position, there are actually 4 more moves to calculate. Now each king move, we can try rook takes queen check. So let's do that first. King f4, let's take the queen. And in this position, we actually do have a draw. The point being, after king f2, there is no d3. We'll just come up and win the pawn. So the black king must come over, but the king is not in front of the pawn in this case. He needs access to this square here, and we're in time to stop it. So this is a draw. So if that's the case, both king moves are ruled out. So now we can look at queen takes rook check. This is a move that must be ruled out. And here, even intuitively, I thought this would be a draw, just because the king is behind the pawn. So there's really no way for this to work out. Computer wants d3, but we'll just come win the pawn. If d3, we're in the square of the pawn. We'll just play king over, like so, and we'll be in the square to stop the pawn. And if the king moves over, yeah, there's really no chance here. Because in this case, again, we're guarding the key square. So, okay, so we've ruled out queen takes rook. We've ruled out both king moves. That leaves this move d3. And after the move d3, it's not so easy, is it? Rook takes queen check results in king takes. And this is actually losing. So again, it looks like the king's behind the pawn, so we should be okay. But the problem is king f2, king f4, and if we go here, black gains the opposition. And the pawn is too far along for us to step back. So this position is actually losing. We would go here, but now this familiar pattern again. Black wins. So if that's the case, after the move d3, if we don't have rook takes queen, then what on earth is white to do? And this is the most fascinating of the moves. King f1 draws. Yeah, and it's the same idea as earlier, except now stalemate this way. And the pawn is assisting in the stalemate. So fascinating move. And if you got that move, give yourself a huge pat on the back. That is not something I saw, but was fascinated with in my study. So, okay, king f1. Well, if black can't take the rook, I think there's just no hope. Computer gives d2, but of course we'll just take, and then win the pawn. That's a draw. And yeah, if they bring the king over, same thing. We just take, and we're in time to stop this pawn. Black's going to try to get over, but we're going to go right in front, and this is lost for black. Stay in front of the pawn. We have the opposition, check, stalemate. So I hope you enjoy this puzzle as much as I did. I really thought there were a lot of key ideas to remember. So stalemate ideas for sure. So this rook g3 move, gotta keep these stalemate tricks in mind in these types of endgames. And then the other thing that was fascinating to me, was that the opposition is sometimes difficult enough. But when you have pawn pushes thrown in, it adds an element of complexity because the two ideas I wanted to mention is that in some lines, the black pawn occupied a square that the black king wanted to go to, and this gave up the opposition for black. And that's the difference between a win and a draw. And for white, same difference. When the black pawn would sometimes advance, it would guard a square that white needed to keep the opposition. The difference between drawing and losing. So important, and I would call them critical moves to throw in your calculations. So if you did well in this puzzle, congratulations. I wasn't so lucky. But thanks for listening as always, and have a great day.